Yeah. Is that better? You know what helps with audio is if I plug in the microphone. Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. All right, can you guys hear me now? Kurt, if you were expecting anything less than this, I don't know why you're surprised after all these weeks. All right, cool. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody's week so far? Hope you guys are doing well. So tonight we are going to be talking about wood processing. Knives, saws. Oh, hey. Hi, Northology Adventures. Good to see you, Cindy. And thanks for giving me shit immediately. Yeah, you know, I tested some stuff. I don't know if you guys were there at the first like 5 seconds, but I tried playing a little like trailer movie thing instead of just me staring blankly into the monitor. So, see, it's getting better, except for the whole plugging in your mic thing. The professionalism abounds here. Finally not so hot. Yeah, that's a good point. It's still hot as heck here, so it's not fun at all. I also meant to, and I worked until super late tonight, but I meant to bring down like all the knives and like my chainsaw and all this stuff to like show on this thing. And then about 1 minute ago, I realized that I didn't do any of that. So you're just going to have to imagine, if you will, what I'm talking about tonight. But mainly I want to hear from you guys too, right? Like I want to hear what you guys use, what tools you guys like, that sort of thing. And we'll hit a little more on the news section because there's been a lot of stuff happening in the last couple weeks. I don't know. There was this little release of like something that's like the Jeep. I don't remember what it's called. Nobody's talking about it, but I figured I'd bring it up on this call. The intro on my power bank review was great. Oh, thanks. I don't even remember what I did on that. The part where I'm standing in front of the truck talking and sweating to death. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. So before we dive too far into it tonight, I did want to just sort of touch on all the normal stuff. I know you guys that are here all the time. Sorry, you got to hear this stuff all the time, but this is good stuff. Like I actually enjoy kind of like hitting up the new people and telling them a little bit about all this stuff. So, you know, of course, if this is your first time watching this, if you're watching it after the live stream, I see your comments, Kurt, and I'll get to you in a second. If this is your first time watching the live stream, of course, I'm on YouTube, obviously. Also do a podcast, so on all major podcast channels you can find me. Also have a page called All Things Overlanding on Facebook, Instagram, and a website, allthingsoverlanding.com. So again, if you don't follow me in those places, but you're on those places and you want to chat, definitely hit me up over there. And, you know, tonight we're going to talk about sort of like overlanding trips and processing wood and what sort of tools, knives, and sharp implements you use to do those things. But before we get into those, I did want to touch on my featured partners, of course, a couple of which are in the chat. So hello to them. But Overland Addict, Chad Boyd, in the comments right now. Great guy, great shop, sells pretty much anything overlanding. So if you check out overlandaddict.com, that's his website. Again, I bought my Colby valve stems from him. I got a patch from him. I bought a few things from him. But just a great guy, just a good guy with some great products. So definitely check him out. Last US Bag, of course, you guys hear me talk about them all the time. It's because they make really good stuff and I really like their stuff. So again, there'll be a link in the description to their stuff. So if you're looking for like an overlanding specific bag for stuff, you know, tools or cooking stuff or whatever, definitely check them out. Of course, more Overland Expo. It's coming up almost. We're what? 6 months away now, February 2021. They haven't even released tickets yet, so if you click on the link below, you can pre-register and they'll let you know when tickets are available. And then, of course, last but not least, Cindy Pope, also in the chat. Northology Adventures, awesome website. She takes amazing pictures. She leads custom like overlanding events for small groups of people, and she has Overland Adventures or Northology Adventures digital magazine. All overlanding stuff, beautiful format, totally free. So click on that link below as well and go check her out and sign up for that the digital magazine. I also have an ad in there, so go check that out. So let's get into news. Let's start with news. Let me catch up with the comments really quick because Kurt is screaming in all caps. Oh, the Bronco. Yeah, that's what it was. The Bronco. That's the thing. That's the thing that everybody's talking, or no one's talking about, the Bronco. I literally can't even look at my Facebook page without seeing 17 Bronco posts per one non-Bronco post. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I think it's cool, right? But what's it going to be? What's the base that would be reasonable for overlanding going to be? 35, 40 grand? I mean, I'm not saying that's $1 million, but I'm not going to buy something that nice and expensive and go crash it into trees. That's for sure. But it is cool. I love what they're doing. I hope that they push people in a lot of good ways, you know, push people to be more aggressive with their off-road offerings and things like that. But no digital intro, that preempted the video with the effect. So yeah, we'll talk about the Bronco a little bit. Overland Pioneers, hi Jeremiah, says DeWalt chainsaw for deadfall and a propane fire pit so we don't smell like smoke for weeks at a time. That's a good idea. I do not have a propane fire pit. I have multiple wood burning off the ground fire pits and they're okay. I like them. I use them in my backyard sometimes just if I want to have a little fire and I'm stuck at home. But the propane ones seem pretty cool. I've never really been to a state that has a lot of burn bans or anything like that where I've had to worry about it a ton. But I mean, the convenience just seems pretty amazing. Chad says, what up, peeps? Kurt, definitely need to pick up some Colby valve stems from Overland Addict. Yeah, you do. I mean, I'm telling you, it was $30. You get 2 of them. And if I'd had that, it would have saved me an hour of time. And they're really nice to have. I would highly recommend them. Northology says, Jeremiah, smelling like campfire is one of the joys of camping. Keep your smelly opinion up north. All right, now we're fighting. Kurt, yeah, hit up Overland Addict. Ford Bronco posts greater than COVID posts, all Facebook feeds. That's true. We're all going to die, but hopefully our pre-orders for Broncos come in before that happens. So now everyone's fighting. All right, I'm ignoring the comments now. So yeah, news. So the Bronco, we can start with that. It wasn't first on my list, but we can talk about it. What do you guys think about the Bronco? I know what Kurt thinks, being a Ford guy. But post up in the comments and let me know what you think about the Bronco. I hate to say it, but I watched, their like promo videos and like the release stuff that day when it came out. And I was kind of like, man, that's cool. Like, I do really like it. I think it's really cool. I like the dimensions. I like, the wheelbase. I like all the options. I'm one of those people that always likes to modify my stuff. And I love that they have like a catalog of like 200 parts for it, which is really cool. So you can kind of customize it. But at the same time, like if everybody buys it, even if you mix and match those 200 features, like the majority of people I think are probably going to go for the 35s. And you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of them are going to look alike, and there's going to be, where I live, it's kind of like a middle upper class sort of part of the northeast side of Indianapolis. And like, I just see a bunch of street driven only Broncos on 35s rolling around everywhere. And like, I don't know, man. Like I almost, for the sake of just being different, I would almost rather have an inferior rig. Just because I just can't take having the exact same thing as everybody else, It's sort of like, I like guys that take Raptors and then like do overland builds on them, because like there's like, I've seen like 2 or 3 guys that actually did them on YouTube, and they're sweet, they're beautiful, but they're really expensive trucks. Not everybody has them, right? But the Bronco is like an entry level vehicle, I feel like, and it is a really cool looking truck. It's got some really nice features. I like the modularity of it. I like the way they put together the interior. I like the removable doors and roof. Like, I like a lot of things about that thing, but like, I feel like even if I bought one, I would never really want to take it too much off-road. It would just be like a Jeep. Like, it'd be like you like rolling around town with your doors off, And God, it's just so expensive. Like, I could see in like 10 years buying a second year Bronco or something used, maybe. I mean, the problem for me though, no offense, Kurt, but like historically, I've had a couple Fords, or my wife's had a couple Fords, and they just aren't great for long periods of time. A lot of maintenance and stuff that has to be done. So it doesn't, tick the boxes for me, but it is really cool. It has a lot of cool stuff. Like, I mean, again, if I was going to spend 40 grand, the sky's the limit, right? Like, I could probably buy an old school Patrol, like that one we talked about on one of the live chats that was like an 80 something, and it was like 25 grand, and then dump another 15 grand into that thing and have a sweet custom 82 Nissan Patrol. And I'd rather have that than a Bronco personally, right? I mean, if I did that, if I spent 40 grand on an old school super clean Patrol, I wouldn't off-road that either, I don't think. But yeah, I think the Bronco's cool. So let's catch up with the comments here. Northology says she's getting a propane one for burn bans and rainy nights under the awning. That's it would be really nice. Like, I haven't released this video yet, but when I went camping a couple weeks ago, it wasn't supposed to rain until like midnight, and I was fine with that. I was going to go to sleep and then just let it rain all night and then wake up and go home the next day. And about 7 o'clock, it started pouring, and I videoed the whole thing. It's just me just cussing and complaining, sitting under a tarp. while it just torrentially downpours and blows like 50, 60 miles per hour. And I had a big bonfire going, and it was out in 3 minutes. And I was like, man, this is going to be a long night. And it was. So I like that. That makes sense. So Overland Addict says Bronco looks pretty sweet, can't lie. Overland Pioneer says if it were the same price point of the Wranglers, I'd buy one. I mean, aren't JLs expensive as heck? Like, I feel like JLs are like minimum 35, right? Or am I totally wrong on that? At least with like decent options. Northology says Ford knocked it out of the park. Built-in crawler gear, yeah, that's pretty nice. Overland Addict says I'm not a big independent front suspension guy, but it is cool. See, I mean, there are pros and cons, right? I mean, the Xterra is independent front suspension, and I've done tons of stuff in it. And again, I mean, it's like, unless you're doing like super serious rock crawling, I personally haven't ever had the need for it yet. And that is kind of the big thing, that every towing capacity and independent front suspension are the two things that everybody that hates the Bronco are saying about it, right? And I kind of think, whatever. I mean, those aren't a big deal for me, but Kurt says, love it. It's like they listed everything a Jeep owner wanted and did it. Not really anything left out other than the solid front axle, which isn't a huge deal. Yeah, I've always liked the JKs and the TJs before them, and the CJs and everything else. But there's just something about that Bronco, man. It's just sexy. Like, they did a really good job with it. And again, if you watch the video, there was one of the big YouTube channels that got one to kind of like do a walk around of, and they showed the interior. And they were so smart with the interior. Like, I love the, like, all the buttons up on the top, like, just like your, whatever they call it, your action buttons or whatever, where you can do the lockers and do everything up there with one thing. And they're rubberized and they're waterproofed. And then, like, just the single touch screen and, like, not a lot of other knobs and stuff. I like how it's all modular and you can, like, take stuff in and out and, like, replace. Like, I love that they made the bolts. If you watch this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But certain bolts say Bronco on them, and if they say Bronco, those are removable. So, like, certain things you can, like, take off and replace. You can swap in and out. When you take the doors off, there's certain bolts that are marked so that you can quickly and easily know which ones to take off to pull the doors or pull the roof or whatever. And that's so smart. It's super cool. So I appreciate that. I mean, good job for it. I'm not a hater. I'm just not it just doesn't excite me that much for the money. Like, again, if this was like 2035, I'd probably be comparing some old Broncos and maybe some Frontiers and stuff, the new Frontiers, like, but used 10 years from now, right? That would make more sense to me to actually overland. Northology says built-in kayak tie downs. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I like the little things on the hood where you can tie stuff down. Like, that's just cool. It's just cool. Just if you could throw stuff up there and just tie it down, it's pretty sweet. It's very clear that they targeted Jeep specifically. Yeah, Chad, I agree. They already have a pickup version of the Bronco planned in 2025. See, that's weird to me, though, Kurt. Like, it's based off the Ranger, right? So then they have a Ranger, and then they have a Bronco, and now maybe just because it's hot and the Gladiator's hot, they're like, and we'll take the back off the Bronco and make it even less usable for you, or more, depending on what you want to use it for, right? But why are they going to get rid of the Ranger then? Like, it just seems weird to me. Like, people that would buy a Ranger or buy a Bronco, like, they're the same thing. But I'm sure there'll be some differences and stuff, but it just seems weird. If Ford makes a diesel Bronco, then I will consider it, but I was saving for a trimmer. Those are cool. What do you think of the trimmer? I don't know. They're okay. I'm so biased towards Nissan, it's not even funny. And again, like, I mean, my truck is 15, 16 years old, right? Like, and I have no problems with that. I love it. I mean, it's super reliable. It's bulletproof. It just kind of runs. And, like, if I smash it on a tree or, like, God, watching, Chad, you know what I'm talking about, watching Grant Wilbanks videos, the last ones where he went with Matt McClellan and all those guys, Nathan Anderson and all them to the Ozarks, and they all were just, like, scraping their brand new 4Runners down the sides of trees and, like, bashing into stuff. And I was just like, man, that's like a $55,000 SUV that you just did $4,000 worth of damage to. On my truck, I'd be like, okay, that sucks, but whatever. You know, like, it just, I don't know, man. For $40,000, I could have a fast car and I could have a truck and I could just do whatever I want and not have to worry about it. So that's why I'm like, I don't want to be down on the new vehicles. I love the new vehicles. And if I was like, you know, if I was independently wealthy, if I was like 50, 55, 60 later on in my life and I didn't want to, like, get out in the garage and, like, turn wrenches and stuff, and I just wanted to buy something from the factory and then, like, take it out and not really worry because I had so much money then, because I'm old and making more money than I am as a young man, I guess, it would be a different story, I think. But at 39, 40, you know, I'm just like, money is still, important to me. Chevy is taking the guy who redesigned the Blazer out back and shooting him now. You know what, Kurt? I liked the Blazer, honestly. Like, I liked how it looked. I mean, it was stupid that it wasn't the same sort of trucky body on frame kind of thing. To take a nameplate like that and bring it back and just make it a car does suck. But man, they're sharp looking. Like, compared to the Terrain or any of the other garbage they brought out, the Equinox, like, none of those are good looking at all. Some of the new Cadillac SUVs are okay looking. But the Blazer was sharp looking. Like, if I was just looking for a crossover, like if my wife was looking for a crossover and I would consider Chevy, which I don't really, but if I did, I would look at it. I mean, if we were leasing it, who cares? If it falls apart, you take it in under warranty and you're fine, right? But yeah, it's definitely a no for anybody that's into overlanding. It would be a wife's car. It would not be an overlanding vehicle. So yeah, no on bashing trucks in the trees. Chad, by the way, go to Overland Addicts YouTube channel. If you don't subscribe. But this dude just bought himself a Mercedes SUV for off-roading, so you know that he's doing some work. He's doing a good job. I mean, it is like a 92 or something? 350 diesel G-Wagon? But it's rad. It's super cool. You should see the video where he took it out with his buddy and just kind of like tested it stock. And you've already got springs in, right? But what else is coming? Can you tell us anything else, Chad? Dylan says, looks expensive. Kurt says, yeah, I cringed at the taillight smashing. Yeah, me too. I watched it a couple of times because I was just like, ugh, okay, let's rewind that a little bit. That was bad. So see, but again, with the Xterra, like, I don't even have rear cladding. Like, if I get a dent, I got rust on the back quarter panels anyway, so if I like tore that off, it might look more aggressive and it would save me the rust problem, you know? So now that I've made my truck sound like complete garbage, I don't want to talk about the Bronco all night because it's all anyone is talking about. And actually, I've seen a lot of people, 92, 28 years old. It's cool. I think it's cool, man. I really like it. Like, I like that it's different. I like that it's a G-Wagon, but not like the G-Wagon that you picture when you picture G-Wagons, like a cool G-Wagon. I still worry about you sometimes. Like, I could see you like getting out in the middle of nowhere and that thing just deciding that's enough and just dying. But it seems pretty bulletproof and reliable from what I've seen. Building it up for a trip to Colorado in a few weeks. You know, I mean, it is a diesel, right? So that's less to worry about. And I just have this horrible, like, I worked in car dealerships for a while and I saw a lot of Mercedes with a lot of problems. But I mean, you know, it seems really well maintained and stuff. And like, I'm sure you'll be fine. Like, my truck could break down tomorrow on the way, 2 hours away to Hoosier National Forest. Who knows? I know you're in love with it. It's a beautiful truck. I like the color too. It's like a dark forest green kind of. It's really nice. So let's get off the Bronco, okay? So that we're not like every other single overlanding channel in the world that's talking about it right now. One other thing that I did want to talk about, I wanted to walk about. We're in Australia now. This show, have you guys, and I realize that I'm way behind the curve because there's like 6 seasons, I think, of this show, but who has watched the show Alone? Post up in the comments if you watched the show Alone and tell me what you think of it. Like, do you think you could do it? And for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is a show where they take like 8 or 10 people out into the wilderness. Like the first couple seasons, I'm on season 2 now. I watched season 6, which was in like the Arctic. And then I was like, I love this show. I have to go find the other seasons. And I went to Amazon Prime Video and they have seasons 1 and 2. And the seasons 1 and 2 take place in the Pacific Northwest. And they take like 10 people out in the Pacific Northwest and separate them by like, mountains or rivers or lakes or whatever so that they can't find each other. And they drop them off like 10 miles apart by themselves. They have to film their own stuff. They have to like survive. They have to find their own food. They get no assistance unless they tap out and quit. And the winner gets $500,000. And it is Alone. So I think Alone season 6, I think the Arctic one is on Netflix. And then the other 2 were on... Really, Cindy? I bet you could do it for a while. Then seasons 1 and 2 are on Amazon Prime Video. But this, I'm telling you, this thing looks amazing. Well, see, here's the thing. When do they film in Indiana? There's nothing to survive in Indiana except boredom. So I doubt that they're going to ever shoot it here. But they, like, the funny thing about this to me is... So I feel like I have the opposite skill set. This is not tooting my own horn at all. You'll see in a second that I'm being self-deprecating. But like most of the people quit because of like mental thing. Like they just lose their minds. They just freak out. It's raining too much. I'm going to go home. Or, I miss my dog and I can't take it anymore. Or just stuff like that, right? Or, they're just losing their minds. And I feel like I could do that. Like for fun, a month and a half ago, I went to Hoosier National Forest and literally was completely by myself for like 3 days and 2 nights. And it was the most glorious thing ever. Like it was beautiful. I just sat there and I like chopped firewood and I read books and and you can't just bring stuff like that. But like some of these people are making like shelves and benches, and like one guy made like a faucet. It's basically like a gallon jug that he found on the shore washed up, and he tied a string to it up around a branch and put a little pedal on it so that he could push it with his foot and wash his hands. Like these people are just doing like bushcraft projects. And that's where I feel like I would be in trouble, like trapping. I don't know anything about that. Trapping. But I feel like in like a year or two, I could get some experience. I could take some classes and I could learn that stuff. But I feel like for everybody, it's the mental part. And like for me, I'd just be like, oh, it's so quiet out here. This is so nice. So I feel like I could overcome what some of them couldn't. There's one guy that went out in this season 2, like first episode, day 1. He's sitting there and he like hears some growling and he's like, no, I'm out. And he quit on like day 1. He went through like months of training and months of like auditions and getting chosen for the show as like one of the top 10 toughest people. And he went out there day 1 and just quit. And I'm like, how can you not make it at least 3 or 4 days, right? Like even if I didn't eat anything for 3 or 4 days, then I might tap, right? If I couldn't trap anything, maybe I would. But I don't know, man. I just think it would be fun. All right. What else we got here? So St. Louis Arch is going to Colorado first 2 weeks of August doing a Continental Divide run. That's pretty sweet. And you said you're getting your trailer? Nice. Kurt, I answered your question. Northology says she couldn't do it. Kurt, when did they film the end? Never heard of it. You never heard of it? Dylan, go. I'm telling you, Netflix. The new one is pretty tough. Like that one is tougher. They're in the Arctic. Like there's no food. It starts snowing. It's like negative degrees. And they're in like a tarp shelter that they built themselves. It's pretty insane. That one's tougher. The Pacific Northwest, I feel like I could do better in. And I like camping in the winter too, but negative temperatures with nothing, like that might get a little rough after a week or so. Cindy Northology says I would outlast you, but not by much. Probably. Why would they lose their minds? A good question, Dylan. I'm telling you, watch the show and you'll be like scratching your head. Have you guys heard of Joe Robinette? He's like a pretty famous YouTuber. Most of you, I would assume, have probably seen it or seen his YouTube channel. He has like 1.5 million subscribers. And this dude quit on day 3 of the first season. He lost his ferro rod and he quit. It was pretty funny because I was like, I know that guy. And then I went to YouTube and I'm like, oh yeah, he has 1.5 million subscribers. So he's probably making more than $500,000, in a couple of years now. So he's fine. I don't know much about knives and implements. Okay, we're getting back on topic. Good, thank you guys. If you were on the Alone Show, what one wood processing tool would you bring and which knife would it be? If I was going on a show like that, I would actually spend the money and get a really good one. I wouldn't take like all my cheap knives that I have. I might get like a Benchmade or something that's actually decent that's going to hold up over a long period of time. You get an axe too. Most of them bring axes. Most of them have just like normal old hickory handled axes. I'd bring my Fiskars because I really like it. It's pretty tough. Overland Addict says, I don't know much about knives and implements, but it seems like a small hatchet or small axe would be an all-around good tool. Yeah, so I have a little Schrade hatchet, which I thought was down here, and now I don't see it. And it's okay. It's decent. What I like about the axe is I think you can choke up on it, and you can use that to, process smaller stuff like you would a hatchet. One thing that you have to be careful of that is interesting is on the second season, and I don't want to ruin anything for you, but one of the contestants is splitting firewood into like smaller pieces and talking to the camera nonstop and just like trying to be kind of silly and like keep entertained. And she goes like this once on the stick and she's holding it with her hand and then she misses and just cuts right through her like thumb, like right through her hand. And it didn't look that bad to me, but she said she couldn't move her hand, her finger, her thumb. And then of course they pop up these little tidbits of information at the bottom. And one of them was like, you can lose if you cut your artery in your hand, you could bleed out in 4 to 6 hours. And most contestants are 2 to 3 hours away from rescue. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, Joe Robinette, Kurt, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's awesome. I love the dude, but he was on season 1 of this show, and he quit like day 3. So maybe I'm not as tough as I think I am. St. Louis Arch is meeting the builder at Flagstaff, then hit the trail. That's pretty cool that you get to pick up the trailer and then just take it straight out. Like, that's the way to do it, I think. Heck yeah, Joe. Well, not being cheap for once. Well, I mean, like, if I was going to go, like, the idea is you're going to be out there, like, season 1, the guy that won was out there for 56 days by himself. I'm talking, like, eating kelp and stuff and, like, limpets and, like, caught a couple fish and some crabs and stuff. But that dude was just a monster. He was, like, all over it. But he also, like, when he started, he was, like, a good 250 probably. And when he was done, he was, like, 160. Like, he was on the border of getting taken out because of health issues. And there was him and one other guy. And then, like, the other guy quit, like, right before this guy was going to quit. And it was crazy. But, yeah, if I was going to go out there for, like, I mean, I would like to think that I could make it for at least a week. Like, I think I could make it for, even if you're just starving, right? Like, you go a week and be emaciated and not feel great but I mean, I think I could make it for a week. I'd find stuff to do and keep myself busy, and I could eat enough. I could find enough. And they give you some training for this show, too. It's not like they literally just, like, steal you from your house and, like, drop you in the woods. Like, they train you up on some stuff. They evaluate you to make sure that you have the skills. Like, these people are better than I am, right? Like, I wouldn't probably even make it into the show. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say, Kurt. Like, I was talking to somebody at work today, like, about the weight loss thing. I was like, what if I just showed up and they're like, so why do you want to be on the show? And it was like, it's like cut about 40 pounds. Like, I wonder if they would just let me on as the weight loss contestant. I don't know. So, yeah. All right, well, we'll dive into the main topic because you guys were already kind of dancing around it. But I did want to mention, as you already mentioned, Kurt, the Primax video went up on Tuesday. I do really like that thing. I do worry a little bit now, though. I hadn't thought about it, and Jeremiah pointed it out. So thanks, Jeremiah, for raining on my parade. But but being honest, right? Like, I want to run a fridge off of it, and I've charged a bunch of stuff off of it, and it does seem really, like, pretty tough, and it lasts for quite a while. But now I'm kind of like, I just want to get a fridge and, like, run it off of it and see how long it'll go. I mean, if it'll go for a night, if it'll go 6 to 8 hours, once you go to sleep, right? Like, if it's at temperature and it just has to kick on every once in a while to maintain temperature, and it's insulated presumably anyways, if I can get through the night and charge it off the starter battery the next day when we hit the trails, or charge it off the solar if I'm sitting in camp, I feel like I'd be okay. Like, I feel like it would work. But now I'm really concerned that it might last like an hour or two. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, presumably too, like the day of, like during the day, I'd be driving around because that's typically my MO is you go to one campsite, you wake up the next morning, you go to another campsite, you park, you camp for the night. You wake up the next day, pack up, you go to the next, you hit trails all day and then you go to the next one. So I could just switch it to the starter battery. I've got a rear one in the Xterra that I could plug it into, and then I could plug the Primax into the solar or into one of the other DC batteries or DC plugs and just let it charge up during the day. And literally I just need it to like maintain temperature at night. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I need to get a fridge first. I've been looking at them. I found a couple of deals, but I'm still waiting. I had one that I bought that was a 55 quart like 6 months ago, and I returned because I didn't have the battery then. And I don't know. Now I don't want to pay $100 more than I did when I bought it the last time. So I'm watching for the prices to drop. So anyways, that was a cool one. Patches and stickers. Don't forget, for those of you that are new or don't already have patches and stickers, they're available. And then what are you drinking to round out the night? I'm having Sierra Nevada Torpedo tonight. It's pretty good. But post up and tell me what you guys are having. So Iceco fridges, yeah. I like the Iceco fridges a lot. I think they look really nice. Turbo Toilet can't sponsor me, Kurt, because I think they're out of business. Wait, what? St. Louis Arch? They're back in business? Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Iceco fridges are a lot cheaper than Dometic, and they seem to be. I've heard that they have like similar compressors, and they're very similar. I don't know. I do like the Icecos. I actually found a winter fridge around me recently. It was like 3 hours away from me, and it was like, it looked like new. It was about an $850 fridge, and they were selling it for $425. And I literally was about to send them a message, and then they posted that it was sold. But I think it might have been stolen. Like they were like barely used, never, just unboxed. Like it was a Facebook Marketplace thing, and I just didn't trust it. So Kurt says he's out of beer. That's sad. Like I've been out of beer all week because I'm trying to lose some weight now. I've been drinking less, but I knew tonight if I showed up with beer or without beer, I'd get lynched. So I bought beer just for you guys. So cool. All right. Now that we've touched on that, now let's get into the actual topic for tonight. So wood processing. It's funny because one of the things I was going to bring up was burn bans, right? So Jeremiah, post up and tell us which propane fire pit you use. I've seen those ones. God, what are those ones called? I feel like there's one brand that's like really big. Cherry Ice Gatorade. Nice. I feel like there's one fire pit that I see all the time, and now I can't remember what it's called. But I wasn't drinking, but you twisted my arm. Oscar Blues Can of Bliss. I like that stuff. It's actually pretty reasonable. Like it's pretty tasty and it's pretty cheap comparatively for IPAs. Propane fire pit. Here, let's go see. Outland Fireball. That's the one I'm thinking of. Does anybody have an Outland Firebowl? Like, I feel like it's a pretty reasonable price. So it's got, here, I can show you. Let me show you. Get my dumb face off the thing here. All right, so this thing right here. I feel like everybody has these. Campfire in a can. What's that? So I see these and like it's got 2,000 reviews. It's $120 and it's 5 stars out of 5 stars, right? Like that's pretty impressive. So I feel like I see that one all the time. Let me look at fire in a can. Campfire in a can. Campfire in a can. So I mean maybe that's just like what they're generally called. Because the Outland is what pops up for all this stuff, right? I know Matt McClellan has this thing, this pop-up fire pit, because I've seen it in a couple of his videos. I mean, it is $100 and you can save $8 with a coupon free shipping, right? But the thing looks pretty cool, but that is not a propane fire pit, obviously. But I mean, I kind of feel like that's a decent option, just especially in places where you're not at a campsite per se. It's really good. One of my faves. Cindy, that sounds good. I just can't do a propane fire pit. Seems wrong. Need to be wood or not worth it. Yeah, Oh, Chad thought that Campfire in a Can was a beer. That's a great name for a beer. I don't blame you, Chad. Oh, you have the pop-up pits? Yeah, so I like that because it's still wood burning, but it gets you off the ground. It folds up to be pretty small. So I do kind of like that idea. I mean, I guess like if I was out west, maybe it might make sense to have like a propane. I feel like that's kind of why I've been hesitant on it. It's like if you're in the desert, right, and there isn't any firewood around, you have to bring in all your own wood and mess with all that stuff, then I would definitely consider a propane fire pit. But I do kind of like these. I do think these are pretty sweet. Although where I am in Indiana, right, like there are fire pits everywhere, or there are rocks everywhere, and you can just make a fire pit. Or I'll bring my shovel out and I'll dig a pit, and then I'll just do it that way. So I don't deal with as many of the restrictions, I think, as a lot of people do. So that may be part of why I don't really mess with it. But I do like the idea. There's the can cooker. Highly recommended. So yeah, that is a thing. So what else? So yeah, do you like pre-build a basis of firewood for your whole trip? So like, let's say that you go to a place, and I don't know, maybe you guys tell me, maybe you're not always like staying, right? Like maybe you're like what I described earlier, where you overland across some trails all day and then you stop at a campsite and then you pack up and you go a totally different direction, go to another campsite. Maybe you don't like stay in one spot. What I'm curious about though is if you're going to stay in the same spot. So like that trip I described earlier where I was like 3 days, 2 nights out in the woods. I literally got there and I spent like 3 or 4 hours like the first day seriously like building a wood pile. And I built up some smaller stuff for, getting the fire restarted the next day, some middle-sized stuff and some big stuff. I'm very OCD. I separate all my wood into different size piles and everything. And like I spent a good 3-4 hours and went through a couple, 2-3 batteries on my chainsaw and then put them all back on the solar and let them charge up the rest of the day. But like I literally spent like half a day collecting firewood because I knew I was going to be there for a couple of days, and I was just like, I just want to knock it all out and have it all nice and neat and organized and be ready to go. But so I'm curious, do you guys do that, or do you like just grab it as you go? Like I know some people that do that, and I've done that before too, where you're just, I need more wood, I'm going to hike out into the woods in the middle of the night and grab a down tree and bring it back to camp and cut it up and throw it on the fire. But what do you guys think? Do you like build up firewood? Do you act like you're like in the Alone show and you're going to be there for a while, so you like build up a firewood stack? The Blackbeard fire starters. Yeah, you tagged me on that, Kurt, and somebody else did too. I would like to stay in one spot for a few days soon, especially if it's a nice view and water feature. See, I feel like, Chad, when I watch some of your videos or like see your pictures, you seem to like, and the Ozarks, it must just be the Ozarks, but like you always seem to have these like amazing sites like on the edge of a river. And like, I think if I could find a spot like that, I might be good to just like chill for a couple days and not necessarily hit trails nonstop. Every other trip I've ever gone on though, it's like nonstop trails. So it's like, you know, it's 10, 12 hours of driving and then 3, 4, 5 hours in camp and then you sleep. And then you wake up the next morning, you do it again. And so by the end of the trip, I'm exhausted. But most of those too, like the sites are okay, but they're like, we find them out of necessity, right? So if we can find a really nice one, then that's awesome. But a lot of the times it's more about, I feel like I almost lose the theme of overlanding sometimes where it's like, I have to get from here to this other place because I want to see this other thing. And then even if I have like a gorgeous, beautiful spot, sometimes I leave it and I'm like, why did I do that? So that's why I was kind of curious. Gather nightly, you shouldn't have firewood. Shouldn't move firewood more than 50 miles. Yeah, I don't move it. I'll burn it all up. It's the Ozarks, yeah. It's so many beautiful places. I know. I'm getting down there. The very latest, Chad, will be prior to More Expo. And I'll try and hit you guys, like you and Grant and Matt McClellan, anybody else up that's down there. But I'd love to come down like a few days before More. If you guys are doing something or going somewhere, I'd love to come down and hang out and just drive around and camp, chill. No pressure. So, and then what do you guys think about collecting firewood? Like, so Jeremiah has a propane pit. Like, is that a benefit for you? Do you like that you can just like hit camp and set up and plug in your propane and you're good to go? Because like you don't like collecting firewood? I like, and that's not a slam or anything. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? Like I can totally get behind that. That's kind of why I do it all at the beginning, because I don't want to have to keep doing it over and over again. I kind of want to just get it all done and then just relax. So I could see benefits of each side, but like me personally, I kind of like the firewood piece of it. I feel like I might be kind of bored if I didn't have that to do. So I kind of enjoy like creating my piles and setting up my fire pit and cleaning out the old ashes and realigning the blocks and like, I don't know, I'm a weirdo, I guess, but I actually kind of like collecting the firewood and like building up a stockpile and trying to plan it all out because I think I'm a little OCD. St. Louis Arch says, I just cut it close to whatever I need for however many nights at one spot. Right. I try and like, I literally think about like how much I'm going to need and I try and make it like perfect. I try and get it just perfect. And you can always burn faster or slower, so you can control the speed too, but I try to like plan it out. Chad says, sometimes I feel like I can't fully relax if I'm moving every day. Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, again, like the few trips that I've been on that were really long distance, it was literally me just following people. So like, and thank you very much to them for leading me around and stuff. But like, I was just like, every day it'd be like, what do you guys want to do? And I'm like, whatever you guys want to do, because I'm just tagging along, right? Like, this isn't my trip, it's your trip. You tell me. And it was a lot of fun. Like we hit some really cool trails in West Virginia, like awesome stuff like I've never seen. And it was great. Cool water crossings up to the top of the bumper, you know, like some great rocky stuff, some awesome trails, tons of water crossings. It was great. But there were a couple of nights, like the very first campsite that we had was like something out of the prehistoric era, like giant trees, moss and ferns everywhere. It was just gorgeous. And we loved that campsite. It had this like amazing scenic overlook kind of thing that we found like down the path, like a half a mile. And it was awesome. But then the next day we woke up and we're like, all right, let's go. And we got up and we left. And then the next night we couldn't hardly find a spot. We ended up, I camped like 2 feet from some bear poop. And it was just like a big open place. It wasn't anything to look at. It just wasn't that great. It was like getting dark by the time we got there, so we couldn't even really enjoy it or chill. So yeah, I'm with you, Chad, on that. Okay, Kurt says, I just found the Story Till Now Overland channel. They have some amazing content. They had some awesome campsites at a lake in Canada, freaking snowing on July 2nd. That's crazy. But I love snow. Come on, we'll show you around. All right, cool. Plenty of downed or dead trees for firewood. That's how it is here in Indiana, too. There's just tons of stuff. I like my tripod and campfire. Those seem kind of cool, Scott. Like I like the idea of that, and I like cooking. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Good catch. Boop. There we go. Forgot that I was still sharing my screen. Good call. See? Professional here, guys. Professional. But, yeah, I don't know. I like those little tripod things, and you can cook over them and everything too. Those are kind of nice. Did the bear not use the turbo toilet? No, the poop was already there when I got there. But literally, I backed my truck in between these two trees, and I started setting all my stuff up. And then I'm like, that looks like bear poop. And one of the other guys came over and goes, yep, that's a pretty good sized pile of bear poop. And I was like, all right. And we never heard anything. Nothing ever bothered us. I'm not that terrified of them. But I'm telling you, you watch the Alone show and you're going to see some stuff. You're going to see some reasons to be afraid of them. But I've never had any bad run-ins. The closest thing I've had to any sort of animal encounter is multiple times in Hoosier National Forest. There are a ton of coyotes, like hundreds of coyotes out there. And there have been nights where like my 7-year-old and I were in the tent and we'll be sitting there and we're getting ready to go to bed. And you just hear like howling, and you hear 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 start howling. And then you just hear like 10, 20, 30 of them howling, and you keep hearing it move, right? Like it gets closer, it gets farther away, it's over here, it's over there, it's like, and but nothing has ever messed with us. Scott from Alabama. Yeah, I know who you are, Scott. What's up, man? Cool. So that was kind of wood processing. So hand tools. What do you guys prefer for hand tools? So like, are you guys silky saw people? Do you like pole saws? Do you like both direction saws? Do you like folding saws? Are you axe people? Like, I'm just curious what you guys use from like a hand tool perspective for processing wood. Like when I started, I have a Fiskars, I think it's called an A31. I want to say it's a 31-inch axe. I still have it. It's in the back of my truck. But it's a fantastic axe. However, it's exhausting. Like I had maybe like a 8 or 9-inch tree that was down over a trail, and I only had the axe and I had a recovery strap. This is before I even had the winch. I had a recovery strap and my truck. And there is a video of this. There's one of these videos from the olden days. I don't know which one it is, but there is a video where I sped up the video and it's me cutting through this tree, and I mean I am dying. Like it probably took me 5 minutes to cut through this stupid tree, and I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack by the end of it. And then I used the recovery strap and I drug it out of the way and pushed it off the road, and I could get by, but it's not great. But the axe is good for like processing small stuff. It's good for like getting cuts started and stuff. It's good for like debranching stuff, like downed pines and stuff that I found. Like you can just quickly just kind of take all the little branches off of it and stuff. So it definitely has uses. I also use the other end of it a lot to like pound in steaks or like things like that. I use it for breaking stuff. My kids find, I don't know why, but they always find, what are those things called? Geodes. And they're like, break this open and see if it's a geode. So I'm using the axe for like the totally wrong reason. But yeah, that's what I do. But I do like the Fisker. I have a Corona folding handsaw, and that thing's actually really cool. It was like $18 at like a Lowe's or a Menards or something like that. It cuts both ways, and it's super fast. So I had a buddy with a Bahco Laplander, and he and I started on opposite ends of a tree, and we basically said, all right, whoever can cut through it first, we'll see who wins. And this thing went like butter through it. The problem is, though, we were being very aggressive because we were competing, right? And at one point, I hit it just a little wrong on the angle, and the blade bent. I mean, like it just hung up, and it bent the blade. And I don't think you get that with like the Bahco Laplander. Like the teeth are a little closer together, so it's a little slower, but the quality is a little bit better. So if you're going to be careful, if you can be very careful with your tools and you're looking for something that's just super cheap, the Corona folding handsaw is a great option. But I probably would go with like, I've seen a lot of these folks in the Alone place, they use the silky saws too that are more of like a pole style. And I mean, they're really long, right? But they're probably like what the length of like my forearm, maybe a little longer. And then they fold out. So I mean, they're pretty big when they're folded out, but man, you just watch these people go and just cutting like an inch at a time through that tree. So I'm kind of into it. I kind of want to like get a better handsaw and just sort of test them out. So that may be coming in the future. We'll see. But I like my Corona. It's okay, but quality is probably better, especially if it's a survival type situation. Overland Attic enjoys splitting wood. You know, it's funny. That's another thing I've started to use the axe for. And I have a wedge too that I can hit with the axe to drive into logs and stuff. I never really split it. I just always just cut it into logs and then just burn the logs. But especially in the winter and stuff, last winter, I had a lot of problems with it just being too cold, too wet, and it just wouldn't burn. And then that's when I'm like, oh yeah, this is why people split wood. Like give it more surface area, shrink down the size of the wood a little bit. So then that's when I started splitting it. And since then I really like it because then I can cut up one down tree and I can turn it into quite a bit of wood and make it last, significantly longer than just burning the whole logs. chainsaw. I'm not trying to work that hard while camping. Exactly. So that's where we're going, right? That's kind of the next thing is chainsaws. So you guys know I have the Black & Decker 20 volt electric chainsaw, and that little thing is just a bulldog, man. And that changed my whole outlook on wood processing, clearing trails, everything. Like, it's amazing. It just goes through everything. Battery lasts for a pretty long period of time. Like, I can usually cut up most wood for like a whole day on one battery. And I've got 3 of them, and then I charge them off the solar, and they charge up in probably like a couple hours. So again, I'm constantly rotating, so I keep them in the truck all the time, and I just, when I think about it, I pop open the back and I switch the charger to the next one. But when I'm camping, I'll go through a battery, pop it off, put it on the solar, grab another one, go through a tree, pop it off, set it there so I know to charge that one next. Wait a little while, take a break for lunch or whatever, come back, the one is charged, I pull that off, I start charging the other one. The electric is just super cool. Like, I think someday I will want a real chainsaw, but the electric is just such a great little piece of technology that makes cutting trees into pieces so much easier. And then I can use the axe to split it, right? The axe and the wedge. So St. Louis Arch says, Silky Saw, Fisker's axe, you just got an electric chainsaw, so that's pretty much exactly what I've got, minus the Silky Saw, but I kind of want one. Picking up a still MS261 later this year, though. That's cool. So, like, the gas ones are in a 20-inch bar. Mine's a 10-inch. So, like, I'm literally using it for, like, firewood processing. If I ever came across, like, a real tree that was down in the woods, I'd be in trouble. I would not be able to use that for that. But for, like, processing wood and stuff, the electric is perfect. You don't have to worry about fuel or oil or anything like that. It's got a pretty big reservoir for chain oil, too. And you just fill it up once. Like, I literally have never refilled that thing, and it's still, like, 4/5 of the way full. And I've used it 15, 20 times probably. So, I mean, to process enough wood for like a day or two. So it's pretty low maintenance, which I enjoy. I did just get a chainsaw sharpener. So I'm curious, how do you guys sharpen your chainsaws? Tell me that in the comments, because that I know nothing about. I'm going to be watching some YouTube videos, I think, but I got the one that has the little, like the long pole thing, and it has like a little, you set the chainsaw down and you just go down the chain, I guess, and sharpen it, but I've never done it before. So maybe I'll make a video on it to show how incompetent I am. But sheetrock saw works amazingly. True story. I've never heard of that. A sheetrock saw? Like a saw for sheetrock that is not intended for cutting wood, and you use it for wood? That's kind of a cool idea. Chainsaw will come in handy for trails blocked by a fallen tree. Yep. Full logs don't burn near as well. Yes. Absolutely right. Again, I'm in Indiana, so like most of the stuff here is just like dead and dry and gross. We don't get a ton of rain either, so like I can find dead like woodpecker pecked, termite eaten trees everywhere, and you just throw the whole thing on there and it burns. But yeah, in the winter, I had like one trip that I took in the winter by myself, and I was there for 2 days. And like day 1, I got the fire burning, but it was so low that I wasn't even getting any heat off of it. And by day 2, I was like, I don't even know if I should stay out here. Like, this is no fun. And then I started thinking about it. I found some smaller, trees and cut them up, and I made it work. But then that's when I went home and did some research and was like, oh yeah, if I just split the wood, that would be much better. Milwaukee 2527 saw, that's cool. Yeah, all the real saws, right, are really nice. I do feel like at some point I wouldn't mind having one for sure. Kurt says he carries tourniquets, first aid would be a good point here. Yes, you're absolutely right. Kurt is always on me about wearing chaps, but what I've heard is with the electric saws, like they don't stop like the gas ones do. They don't seem to have that built into them or whatever. So I'm just, again, mine's a little baby saw anyways, and I just keep it far away from my extremities, and I'm literally just processing wood. So like I've never been in a situation where I'm like tree down across the trail and I'm like up here, or there's any sort of danger or chance of really hurting myself. But I mean, the exterior does have a really nice first aid kit in it anyways. But great point, Kurt, you're the man. With a steel file, the double file version, so that's what you use. That's cool. Steel makes a really handy tool to sharpen that keeps it at the correct angle and files down the thingies at the same time. I'll have to look into that. The one that I bought was only like $16, and I think I put it in the description down below. But so it was pretty cheap, but it has like it looks like it has like a little sort of rest kind of that keeps it at that right angle, and then you just set it by the chain and you just sharpen, rotate the chain, sharpen, rotate the chain, sharpen. So I think that will work, but we'll see. When I try it, if it's terrible, I'll let you know. I've seen some stuff. I've watched some videos on YouTube of some really cool chain sharpeners that are just like almost fully automated and look amazing. Again, I have like a $120 electric saw. I'm not terribly worried about it, but I've never sharpened it yet. So I bought a sharpening kit and I'm going to try and teach myself to sharpen that thing. So there may be a video coming out of that of me cutting the crap out of myself, but we'll see. Call it a 2N1, I think. Okay, the quick clot is always good to have. Yeah, I'm sure that's true too. Just Google Still 2-in-1 file. I'm pretty sure I've seen that. I'm pretty sure I looked at it, but I feel like it was like 40 or 50 bucks, which isn't unreasonable. Still 2-in-1 chain sharpener. Yeah. Oh, well, there's a Chinese knockoff of it that's about $10 cheaper. That's not surprising. Here, I'll show you. This thing, right? The Still 2-in-1 Easy File Chainsaw Sharpener. I mean, that's pretty sweet. I'm not going to lie. That would be pretty sweet to keep me, you know, moving in the right direction and doing everything right. To just, oh, so you just like line it up. That's pretty sweet. And it's only 35 bucks. I mean, I spent 16 on mine, but yeah. Anyways, that's pretty cool. That's good to know. I'll put a link to that down below too after this is over, just for people that are watching and want to find it. Cool. Yeah, that's good to know. I probably will end up buying that because I'm going to try this other one and it's going to be cheap and crappy and terrible. It had really good reviews, the one that I bought though. But we'll see. Sharp chain makes all the difference. I know, I definitely feel like, so it's been, God, it's probably been almost a year since I got my chainsaw and I've never sharpened it yet. And I probably used it again 15 to 20 times. But I mean, how many cuts are we talking? I mean, I'd say probably in an average night I cut through probably average 4 or 5 inch trees, like down trees, and I maybe cut up 4 of those that are 15 feet long, maybe. It's like I just feel like I'm not using it a whole lot, but I definitely do feel like it's getting less sharp now. Okay, that's the one you have. That's good. Sharp chain makes all the difference. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm sharpening it soon, I promise. I promise that I'm sharpening it really soon. Because I can't wait to see what it's like. I'm going to try the cheap one. We're going to see what it's like, and then I'll probably end up buying the steel. This is like all my videos that you guys have ever seen. Like all the videos that you've ever seen, it's always like, hey guys, it's been 4 years and when I started I didn't have this or this or this or this or this, and then I bought 16 hammocks and 14 cots and 8 tents and all this stuff, and now here's what I finally, after literally testing these manually myself, I finally landed on this setup, right? Like, how many chairs do I have? I have like at least 4 or 5 different types of folding chairs, and I'm finally starting to figure out what I like. But it's half of the fun is just trying out all the new gear, right? Like, you may not always use it. I may give it to my kids to use at their like soccer games and stuff, but you know, it's still fun to buy and try, you know? Sharpen that bad boy. I will do it. I just stroked out hearing that. It saved my butt several times, says Scott. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you guys that do like gas and oil chainsaws, you just bring a little tiny can of like mixed oil and gas with you and deal with that all the time? Or like, you have to, right? And so then you've got this big old 20-inch chainsaw, probably in like a plastic case that's really large. And then you've got your fuel mix, right? It just seems like a lot. That's why I'm like with the electric, I've got basically up on top of my drawers, I've just got 3 batteries sitting next to each other. I'll release a video of this soon, but I got bored the other day and I made a mount for my chainsaw up on top of the drawer system, and my radios, my GMRS handhelds, my Midlands. I made mounts for all those things. I got bored and I made them from scratch. It's like some L brackets with holes in them and then some straps basically, but it works. But so on top of my drawers, I've got the whole chainsaw and the whole charging apparatus and all the batteries, and it takes up no room, right? Like, it's just so much smaller. Kurt is asking, Chad, do you sell Darsh chairs? Yep, you can buy it pre-mixed in a can. Oh, well, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. That may save you a little bit. I mean, there's some expense there, right? But there's something about charging it off the solar and having unlimited chainsaw power that's kind of nice. Again, when it gets to be winter and it's too cold for the batteries to really hold a charge well and the sun's not out, we'll see how I feel about that, but I haven't dealt with it yet. You can buy it pre-mixed in a can, yes, but I only have one in stock, says Chad. I have a Ford, so space isn't an issue. Funny. You're a funny guy with your full-size truck. Yeah, but like getting in and out of places might be an issue if your truck's too big. I'm just kidding. I don't want to piss you off, Kurt. I like you too much. Overland Addict says getting a new shipment soon. A tank should last you a long trip. I'm being an asshole about it, right? Like, a gas and oil chainsaw is not that much less convenient. It's just I've been like literally for at least the last 2 years, like trying to shave space. We keep talking about the turbo toilet, but like trying to shave every square foot out of my gear that I can to like make room for more stuff, especially when I bring my kids with me, man. It's like, then I got 3 chairs instead of 1. Then I've got, you know, a tent plus my rooftop tent plus my ladder for the rooftop tent plus a toilet plus their sleeping bags plus, you know, it just goes on and on and on. So when you pack it up for everybody, then it's like, it's just too much, you know? So I've literally been trying to cut. So that's why when I look at that chainsaw, I'm like, ugh, it's just so much. But it really probably isn't, especially if you have a truck with like a bed cover and stuff, you'd be fine. But there is something about charging your batteries off solar that's just really cool. Like just always having full batteries and never actually having to plug them in your house is just, I just like it. So yeah, so that was kind of the end. So we talked through hand tools. We talked through how you process firewood. We talked through chainsaws. You guys post up in the comments, is there anything else like wood processing wise or just camping in general wise that you want to talk about before we get going? It's been an hour. Dylan's going to tell me not to stop every time. It's nice to not have to deal with the mess and smell of gas and oil with an electric. Yeah, like that's the electric chainsaw. The only thing that is a problem is, at least with the Black & Decker I have, is it has a small vent hole on the top of it. And when I first got it, I didn't realize that. And I had it sitting in the back, and like I was on some gravel roads and it tipped. And then like I was just driving along for like an hour, and then I got to camp and everything was covered in bar oil. Like everything in the back was just saturated with the chain oil. And I was like, oh my God. So what I started doing, this is kind of silly, but I started when I'm traveling, I just put a little piece of saran wrap around it and I just tape it just in case. But now that I have the mount, I don't have to worry about that. It mounts flat, sitting up on top of the drawer system, so it can't go anywhere, and it's strapped down. But you do have to think about that. Dylan, stop yelling at me in all caps. Scott, when am I going to get a trailer? I never, man, I don't know. I fixed a bunch of stuff on the car the other day. So I thought that my ABS sensor was out or was going out, but it actually turns out that one of the cables had come loose, and I retightened it and it was fine. I put it back in the holder and it was fine. And I don't remember if I told you guys this or not, but I broke the hood latch. Like I actually didn't break it, but there's a part where the air intakes go under the hood latch wire, which I didn't realize this until after it happened. But when I took the air box out, I replaced my air filters with aftermarket ones. It knocked that loose and my cable stopped working. And I closed the hood. I didn't realize it was broken. So for like a month and a half, I could not get the hood open on the car. So I couldn't do an oil change. I couldn't put it on the battery tender. I just had to drive it like every 2 or 3 days around the block and just kind of keep it alive. And it took me like an hour. I put this thing up on jack stands and I finally fixed that. So I fixed that. I fixed the ABS weird sensor readings that I was getting. So now everything's fixed on the car. And you know what my first thought was? It was like, I could sell this now. Like there are no lights on. Everything works. It drives fine. It looks good. Like I could go to a dealership today and I could trade this in for a Bronco. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. God, Dylan. I'm going to hire you, Dylan, to work for me. If you can put it in the back of a truck, it's not as big of a deal. Yeah, my DeWalt doesn't leak bar oil. So yeah, it's weird. You can see it. So it has like a rubber cap on top of the Black & Decker, and it just has a tiny little pinhole in the middle of it, which I assume is just to vent it and keep the oil moving down, right? So it doesn't like get pressure in there and not feed. But yeah, again, I had no idea that thing was going to leak. I thought, it has a hole in here. It's designed that way. Like the hole's too small for oil to come out or something. And yeah, I learned the hard way that is not true. So, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But then I drove the Infinity, and now that nothing's wrong with it, I kind of like it again. So we'll see. After I do a walk around and review of mine, he'll be getting a trailer. Yeah, do it, St. Louis Arch. Send me a video of it. I'll put it on my channel and like tag all your stuff in it and send people your way. Mo Leisures, by the way, I don't think they're on here tonight. They're in the middle of nowhere, so they may not have any reception, but they did a really cool rig walk around they sent me, and I'm going to probably put it out next week, I think. But their Xterra is really cool. They've got some cool mods to it, and they did a really nice job putting together like a rig walk around and sending it to me, so I'm going to share that out with some links to them too next week. Dylan says at 20,000 subs, you have to buy a trailer. Okay. I mean, at this rate, that's probably like 8 or 10 years away, so that's probably on track. That's probably on the path. So I don't want a Gladiator, Nate. I mean, gladiators are cool. I like gladiators, but everybody has a gladiator, man. Like, if I wanted the same thing as everybody else, I'd get a gladiator, but I just, yeah, not Bronco. I don't want the same thing with the Bronco, right? Like, everybody has that too. I honestly, like, I'm really starting to plan. I'm actually making like a spreadsheet. I kid you not. I don't think the Xterra is going to die for like 5 years, probably. Like, it's going to go forever, I think. But whenever it does, I am like starting to make like a build sheet for like what it would be like to get like a more recent body style Infiniti QX80 and like just tear everything off it, like cut everything off of it, steel bumpers all around, swing out on the rear, like 6.5 inches of lift, 35s, like armor, sliders. I just think it'd be so cool to have your LED projectors on the front and all your like niceties on the inside, room for 8 people, friggin' 20 some speakers, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff, and just be like crawling up over trees and stuff in that thing. So I don't know. That could be, that's really like what I would like to do. I would like to spend like 20-ish grand on that, 25 grand. And I think for 20 to 25 grand, I could get one with like 70 to 100,000 miles on it, which is, those 5.6s are bulletproof, just like the 4 liters. And then that gives me what? I could get that for probably like 15 to 18. And then that leaves me with like 7 grand to like buy parts and have stuff fabricated by P&P Engineering nearby and that sort of thing. So I don't know. That's what I would do. I would do something that no one else has, that's super weird, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but would be my own. And that's probably what I would do. You can't quit now. Your views are higher now than when you started the live feed. That's true. Well, no one knows that this thing happens, and I don't really rep it up anywhere, Chad. Buying a 350 trimmer. That's my next rig years from now. Yeah, maybe a used one. I don't know. Kurt Wall, same here. Everyone washes their hands, going to stop doing that because it's too popular. I mean, that's a good point, but that's a little different. Like, that's a sanitary thing, right? This is a preference thing. I'm not going to just, picking a vehicle is a personal choice. It's not like wearing a mask, right? Like, that's for the better health of everyone else. If I drive an Infiniti, a weird Infiniti SUV, that doesn't hurt anyone else, but I'll wash my hands. You should buy Michael's Jeep Liberty so you can buy a Nissan. I'm not buying, no, that thing's dead, man. I'm not buying it. That's why he's not fixing it, because he loves that thing. I want to see what the new Terra is going to be like. I do think the new Terra looks cool. I don't think it's going to be trucky enough to be able to do anything. Like there is a guy that I follow on Instagram that's actually pretty cool. I have to find him, but he has one of the newer Pathfinders, and he's actually like done some cool stuff to it, like lifted it up and put it on some tires, and it's actually kind of neat. Like, it's kind of cool. They're like all-wheel drive, and they're not a great off-road option, but it's still cool that he picked something nobody else has done and has done some cool stuff. It's like White Pathfinder, that guy, R50 Pathfinder, I think is his channel. But he has like an older Pathfinder, and it's rad, man. He's lifted it. He's got some nice wheels on it. It looks really good. It's a sweet rig, and nobody else has one, Like, I'd love a Patrol, too. That would be cool. What else we got? I think Michael already bought something. Yeah, I think he's got to be buying something, because I think that the Liberty's been dead for a while. Time to sell the Xterra and the car and buy a trailer. I could just have a trailer, and I could just like tie some like recovery straps around my shoulders, attach it to the trailer, and I could just like walk up to the expo and be like, "What's up, guys? Check out my sweet trailer I spent 20 grand on." And then they'll be like, "Where's your rig?" And I'll be like, "I couldn't afford one. I had to sell them all to buy the trailer." Nissan needs to step their game up. I know, man. The 400Z though, I'm kind of into that. Like, I told my wife, I said I might consider, when the 400Z drops, like leasing one and like trading in the Infiniti on it, because that would be pretty sweet. Although I feel like it's kind of the same thing, right? I feel like a bunch of people are going to run out and get those things too, so maybe not. I might rather have like a early, like 2010, 2011 370Z with some like serious mods to that. Or, to Dylan's point, like, maybe I just build a really sweet rig and I have one vehicle again, but I really like having two. It's really nice to be able to switch between them. Chad can attest to this. Buy a trailer, Nissan to set the game up. 1 mile per hour, yes, exactly. I'm digging the every other week instead of the weekly, by the way. Me too. I like it too. I'm literally like losing my voice because I talk to customers and stuff all day. And I'm kind of like working 2 jobs right now plus this thing. So like it's kind of nice to like have a break to just sort of think of stuff and then come back around. I'll post on Facebook too. Yeah, Northology. I saw your pictures of that thing. A 55 DeSoto. that was lifted on these big MTs. It was sweet. Yeah, go to Instagram and look up that at 1955_chupacabra. It's really cool. But yeah, but I will post up on Facebook though for all you guys, and I will like say throw out topics, right? Because I don't have to set the rules all the time, right? Like you guys can tell me what you want to talk about, and you guys have better ideas than I do a lot of the time. So I'm happy to do that. A discovery, I hate to say it. I looked at a lot of discoveries. When I was looking at the Xterra, I looked at like old discos, like 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s, but God, those things were so unreliable. But they were cool with the little ladder and the little windows and the flip down seats in the rear and super capable. And I've seen a bunch of people that rock them. But God, there's just something wrong with it to me. Like if you buy a vehicle and it breaks down more than it runs, like I just can't do that, man. Like that's why I love my Nissans. I've had so many of them and they've all been great. They've all been bulletproof, easy to work on. I've got the tools built up now for Nissans for days. So like, I don't know, man. I don't think I'd ever want to discover. Everything's in different places. Everything's weird. Parts are expensive. They break all the time. They're cool. Like, I love lifted discos on big wheels and tires. They look sweet. Buy something else for your wife and then have your rig where your wife could drive it so you could switch vehicles. Yeah, but then I can't do the stuff I want to do. Like, she hates the truck. And it's only got a 2.5-inch lift on it. Like, if I had my way, I'd have, like I said, a QX80 with like 6 inches of lift and you'd be crawling up into that thing, it'd be sweet. But Land Rover and ended up with our Gladiator. Seems to be the best of the modern overland vehicles for a reasonable price. Again, Nate, I watch your channel. I know who you are. I've seen your Gladiator and I've seen your videos. I think they're cool. I have no problem with them, but when you go to an expo and like everybody has it, for me, like I like having my old Xterra because people are like, oh yeah, that's weird. Nobody drives those. Cool. I like it. But I think you're right. Like, and your vehicle is probably much more reliable than mine because it's newer, hopefully, presumably, right? So I do like them. I like the Gladiator over a JK, for sure. I like the Gladiators quite a bit. I just wouldn't own one. The H3 with a SAS setup, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not a Chevy guy at all. Yeah, post up your channel, Nate. I forget what it's called, but I've watched a bunch of your videos. That's way for the win. I thought you had a channel. You not? Oh. I thought you were there. I swear there's a guy named Nate that has a Gladiator. Now I got to go try and find this guy. Never mind, Nate. My bad. There is a guy with a Gladiator that posts videos all the time that I swear his name was Nate. Gladiator Overland. I'm going to find this guy. What is his name? Not the Topher. Trail Recon talked about one for a minute. Expedition Overland. I don't know. I'm going to find that. Oh, there it is. JK Gear and Gadgets. That's the guy I'm thinking of. And he has a video called 10 Things I Hate About My Jeep Gladiator Truck. And it has 500,000 views. And this dude has... Wait, maybe that's not the same guy. Oh, no, that's a different guy. There's another guy that has a smaller channel that has a Gladiator that talks about it all the time. Have you guys seen, though, Fab 4's Gladiator? Nate, you probably know what I'm talking about. Sorry, Nate. Don't mean to confuse you. I do that occasionally. Have you seen Fab 4's Jeep Gladiator? Look at this thing, guys. Check this out. I mean, you can just tell from the thumbnail there how rad this thing looks. I'm going to turn down this volume. This thing, like, if I had one of these, if I had like a shop-built Gladiator, I could probably do a Gladiator. But again, like, not everybody has this, right? Like, this is probably pretty tough to get. Gotta love ads on YouTube. I'm pretty sure, though, that I've seen how rad this thing looks. Like, this thing is on some big tires. And look at those fenders. That thing is pretty cool. Like, that's a cool Gladiator. I'll give him that. I like all the doors off, too. So, yeah. These guys built, I think they built something else recently, too, that is pretty popular. Stock Nate on Insta, but I don't see any Gladiator. All right, well, stop stalking people, everybody. Oh, go away. All right, well, sorry, Nate. We just bought Into the Overland World. My wife and I are walking, talking REI commercial. Nice. Yes, I have 11. I think I just Instagram stalked Nate on Insta, but I don't see any Gladiator pictures. He said he just bought it. And he doesn't have Insta either. Good for you, man. Seriously, like if I could get rid, I hate to say it, but like the real conversation for my channel happens on Facebook and Instagram. Like I don't have as many subscribers, followers, whatever on Instagram or Facebook, but like it's just too hard to like carry on a conversation even with the community stuff on YouTube or even this. No, I'm not YouTube Red, Scott. I'm too cheap for that. Don't you know me? I bought a $16 chainsaw sharpener that is going to require a degree to use to save $20 over the still that's easy to save $20. So no, I'm not YouTube Red. So anyways, we've gone completely off the rails here, guys, as always. So cool. So yeah, so Nate, thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody else for joining us too. If you're on Facebook, you're not on Instagram, you don't have a YouTube channel, that's cool. But if you're on Facebook, I know, Scott, I'm cheap, I'm telling you. If you're on Facebook, though, and you don't follow All Things Overlanding, go do that because we talk over there. And then, like I said, I'm going to post up there and I will ask you guys for suggestions for 2 weeks from now, the next one of these that we do and what you guys want to talk about. I buy cheap 10 times to save money each time. That's true. I literally told you guys exactly what happens earlier, right? Like I buy 16 chairs to get to the end one that I should have just spent all the money on at the beginning. It's not always the best way to do it, but you know, it works. So anyways, all right, Dylan, we have to end. You can stay on here and talk to everybody if you want. I have to go. I worked 2 jobs today. I'm kidding. No, you guys have been great, as always. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. Dylan, you crack me up every time, man. Nate, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Most of these guys and girls are on here most weeks, so feel free to come back in a couple weeks. So we've started doing them every 2 weeks for the live ones, and then I usually drop an episode on Tuesday that's like a gear review or an Xterra thing or just something, and then Sunday is like podcast/vlog. This Sunday is about my camp kitchen setup, so I was editing it tonight, so that'll be coming out here pretty soon. See you, Chad. Thanks again for stopping by. Dylan, you cop out. I kept it going on Facebook last time, but you didn't join in. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it, man. Merch, says Scott. My merch? Am I supposed to push merch now? Do it in the morning sometime. Okay, I have patches and stickers, too, at allthingsoverlanding.com. So if you're interested in patches or stickers like all good overlanders, then feel free to go there. Like, I'll send them to you if you pay me. So thanks for the reminder. We're groupies, I think. Yes. Bye, Dylan. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys. It's fun. It's been fun hanging out with you. So you guys have a good night, and we will see you next time.